Hello, Aries, and welcome to this, your June 1st through June 15th reading and predictions. If you are returning here, thank you so much for coming back. And if you are new here, a very warm welcome to each and every one of you. For those of you who are returning, you will notice that I am still in my cousin's man cave, same background. I'm waiting for some paperwork to come through. And you'll notice as well, I mean, we're almost into the month of June. I'm recording this at the very end of May, and here I sit probably wearing the same sweater I was wearing last time I recorded a video for you because it's so cold in the mornings here. Definitely not something that I am accustomed to anymore. All right. Let's get started with your early June reading, Aries. Where are we going first? We're going to head on over to the fairy deck and we're going to pull some cards. Fairies for Aries. Where are the Aries at now? Here, the end of May, moving into June. Okay, we've got the cards going a little bit crazy here. Let's see what happens. See if any more decide that they're going to fall out. Anything else for the Aries? Okay, so let's see what happens. Drop the deck. Okay, we still have a couple of cards here that have not wanted to go back in. Let's give those a tug out. All right. So there was one card that came out. No problem. This one flew out. And then we have four more cards here. Let's tap into the energy of these cards. No, got nothing. Got a little bit of a tug on that one. No. Got a tug on that one for sure. Let's go back to this one. I got this one as a maybe. I'm just going to leave it off to the side for you, Aries. Okay. Next card that we're going to pull. What are you focusing on? Where are the Aries placing their attention? June 1st through June 15th. All right. Aries, early to mid-June. Interesting. The fairies had a whole lot to say, and now oh, there we go. We've got, oh, all right. They were right at the end of the deck, the cards that wanted to come out for you. So we're going to just set those off to the side. For those of you who are new here, I leave all of the cards sitting face down on my work surface until I'm actually ready to read the cards. And the reason that I do this is it allows for more of the psychic or intuitive energies to bubble up rather than my conscious mind seeing your cards ahead of time and beginning to form that story going ahead. For me anyway, and for many of my clients, this becomes more of a very, very intuitive process where it becomes more obvious the information isn't coming from my conscious mind. Okay. Cards of difficult influences for the Aries. Okay. We're going to have to maybe shuffle up some cards here because we've got cards flying out everywhere. Yeah. All right. So Aries, we ended up with a significant number of cards here. Probably about 10 or 12 cards. All right. So let's have another mix of these cards and then we'll go through them and see what actually wants to come out, because Aries, if you have this many difficult influences coming up for the first half of June, life might be a little bit uncomfortable for you. So let's see what wants to come out for the Aries difficult influences. There's one. I'm sensing there might be three cards here. So let's see. This one does not want to go back in the pack. And what else do we have? Is there anything else? Could be wrong with my guess of three. There is a card here that, yeah, there's a card here that I keep pausing at. Where'd it go? No, there's a couple of them. All right, let's go through one more time. Okay, that's it. Okay. The next card that we're going to pull for you, Aries, is going to be a card that just makes sense. Getting pulled over here to the angels and ancestors. Cards that just make sense. Okay, the cards are doing it again to you, Aries. This is leading me to believe that you have an awful lot going on right now. There's just so many cards jumping out and flying all over the place, which is a little bit unusual. It does happen from time to time, but usually that happens when people are kind of in that state of overwhelm, like they're feeling like they've got a lot going on in their lives. That one doesn't want to go back in. Yep, and again. Okay. Okay. The next card that we're going to pull for you, Aries, is going to be cards of unexpected. Now, I say unexpected, and yet the majority of the time I get through a good portion of the reading to that point. And when I turn the cards over, it's not unexpected what we see there, but you know. All right. What is unexpected for the Aries, early to mid-June? Unexpected influences and insights. Interesting. So all of the cards wanted to come flying out a minute ago, and now for unexpected, you only have one card. Okay. Where are we going for your general overall outcome? Going back over here to the Oshos, and for whatever reason, this particular deck likes to be the outcome cards. General overall outcome for the Aries, mid-June 2023. Right, let's try again. Okay. Aries. General overall outcome. Interesting. It's really interesting to me, Aries, that you had so many cards flying out, just literally flying out. And I had to try and downsize your reading. And now for the outcome, I'm having trouble getting a card out at all. That to me, before I even look at any of your cards, is indicating that going into the month of June, you've got a lot going on. There is the possibility that you're feeling or sensing some overwhelm, that you feel like you're being pulled in several different directions. And yet by the middle of June, you seem to have managed to get everything into control. You pulled your expectations back into alignment with where you're actually at. What can happen is when we begin to wake up to the magic that we have inside of ourselves, when we begin to wake up to the magician that we are, we get super excited and we set a whole bunch of intentions in order to be able to manifest. And when we put too much out there into the world, we get a little bit frantic and overwhelmed. And then when we realize, okay, one thing at a time, we need to manifest this before we can manifest that. And then we can move into the next thing. And when we begin to do things in a slightly more linear fashion, our lives become a whole lot less chaotic versus at the beginning of this reading when the cards were just flying out. So one more time for the Aries. General overall outcome. There we go. And now the cards are flying again. Okay, so I think we have your general overall outcome cards here. Let's finish up the deck here. All right, so that card, and this card. Place them in the middle and let's get started. Okay, Aries. Where you are at now, the three cards that finally came out that we managed to narrow the deck down to is the 7 of Summer, the Prince of Autumn, and the 10 of Winter. Interesting. Okay. So you have the 7 of Summer, also known as the 7 of Cups. This is a card of making up your mind that you are no longer going to procrastinate, that you're making the realization, or you're coming into your power, that indecision is uncomfortable and actually sucks all of your power away from you. But once you actually make a decision, a firm decision on something, all of a sudden a whole bunch starts to fall into place. And that's what I said before I turned over a single solitary card here, is that I really felt, Aries, like where you were at is you had too many irons in the fire, so to speak. And so this card is indicating that nearing the end of May and moving into June, you're coming to that realization that you need to make a decision. And when you do, it's really, truly empowering. The next card that you have is the Prince of Autumn, also known as the Prince of Pentacles. And what this card is all about is this card refers to business or money. And it is asking you to make sure that all of your I's are dotted and all of your T's are crossed, especially if you are. So you have a decision that needs to be made, or several decisions that need to be made at this time, Aries. And once you make those decisions, there's probably the likelihood that you're going to have to go into some kind of negotiation or put up some kind of boundaries. If it does refer to finances and business, there may be a contract that you might be looking to sign. And so this card is saying that once you've made that decision, make sure you're paying attention to the details, right? The devil is in the details, as the saying goes. Don't know where that came from because I never, ever use that saying. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the devil is in the details, right? So once you make the decision to move forward, now, whether that decision involves a relationship, which is possible because you've got this 7 of Summer here, 7 of Cups, but I'm sensing it's less of a romantic relationship and more of a business relationship, especially with this pentacle coming up right beside it. And once you make that decision, you're going to have to really, really pay attention to the details. The next card that you have is the 10 of Winter, also known as the 10 of Swords. What does the 10 of Swords represent? It represents that we're finally resolving a difficulty. We're finally getting up over that hump that we've been on. There's something that was holding us back, including indecision and not making a choice that we needed to make. When we sit in indecision, it creates chaos in our lives. And so what these cards are telling me is that you're ultimately going to finally make that decision, Aries. You're going to pay attention to the details and it's going to resolve other problems. Stuff is just going to kind of go poof. Things that you thought were a problem are just going to kind of disappear. Let's have a look at what you're focusing on. King of Pentacles. And another Pentacles, you've got the 6 of Pentacles. Okay. Interesting. So the first card that we're going to read is actually going to be the 6 of Pentacles. The 6 of Pentacles did come up in reverse. So we'll read it as such, Aries. 6 of Pentacles in reverse is about us taking a step back in order to be able to rejuvenate ourselves and recuperate following a time of confusion, following a time of overwhelm. Makes sense, right? The next card that you have is the King of Pentacles. Now, I want to point out here that you've got, where was I going with this? You've got the Prince of Pentacles here, also known as the Page of Pentacles. You've got the Six of Pentacles in reverse, and now you've got the King of Pentacles coming up. So you do have this theme coming up here, Aries, about money and job or career, whichever name you want to put on it. The King of Pentacles coming up in your focus is actually a really, really positive card, because what this card is telling us is that you're at that point of becoming the king of your kingdom, or queen of your queendom, whatever you want to refer it to. I'm not referring to masculine or feminine, male or female here. But the King of Pentacles is a wise soul. He has the ability and capacity to run his kingdom in a very methodical way. That's probably because he's paid attention to his prince, who has told him he needs to pay attention to the details. And he's reached that point where he's very, very comfortable. And there's no longer that struggle. Like if you had received the Five of Pentacles, for example, you would still be in that place of eek. But instead, you're focusing on this King of Pentacles. And the King of Pentacles is about success and being very comfortable in the financial and career situation that you have found yourself in. Yeah, I think that's about all I want to say on that one. Let's move into your difficult influences. Okay. In your difficult influences, you have the river. The river represents water, and it represents going with the flow. This coming up in your difficult influences, Aries, is telling me that at this time, you're having difficulties or bumping up against going with the flow. Now, this can be perceived in one of two ways. One of them is that you're wanting to go against the grain and try and swim upriver, and you're trying to create something that no one else has ever created. Thus, it may feel like you are trying to swim upstream. The other thing is it's kind of like bucking the norms, and when you do that, it is a difficult path to walk, but there are also rewards that can come from that. Okay. The other way that this can be perceived is that on the opposite side of things, Aries, in your difficult influences, you may be going too much with the flow. And if you're doing that, you are potentially creating a situation where you may lack some boundaries. That's just what's coming up for me intuitively. Okay. So pay attention to the river, pay attention to flow. When a card with a significant amount of water comes up, I encourage people, no matter where it comes up in a reading, whether it comes up in difficult influences, unexpected, focus, wherever it comes up in your reading, it is a call to make sure that the water that you are consuming throughout the day is of a clean and positive source. And also, if you are finding yourself in a place of confusion, impatience, overwhelm, anxiety, any of those, turn to water. Because if you turn to water, it will help you to reground yourself. It will help you to reconnect with that which you need to be paying attention to. And we already know that you are being called to pay attention to smaller details this month. The other thing that you have in your difficult influences is the Cloud card. This card refers to the imagination. This card refers to taking time out of your day in order to be able to tap into your intuition. That's where imagination comes from, is from our intuition. And you're being called upon to revisit that childlike playfulness of being able to take the time lie down on your back, look up at the clouds, and allow your imagination to run wild. See what you see. Do you see dragons? Do you see dogs? Do you see your future? But this is something that's in your difficult influences. So what is this telling me, Aries? That at this time, especially with all of these pentacles here and you needing to be paying attention to details when it comes to business and money, what's this telling me? That you're struggling and bumping up against tapping into your intuition and going into that deeper place. Is that a bad thing? Not really, but what you do need to be doing at this time, Aries, is about finding that balance between this Prince of Pentacles and this King of Pentacles and tapping into your imagination. Let's have a look at your cards that just make sense. Okay, so cards that just make sense this month, you have for the early part of June, you have the Air Guardian here. This is a card asking you to shift your perception. Have a look at seeing things from a different perspective. Now, interestingly, Aries, you are a fire sign. What feeds fire? Oh, air, right? You have two cards here, both representing air. But we have a problem because you also have a card that fire doesn't get along very well with. It has a tendency to put the fires out. Okay. This being in your difficult influences is telling me you need to feed your imagination. This one is confirmation. You need to shift your perception, right? Temper that with air though, Aries, because these two air cards may feed that fire within you, being a fire sign. So if you do feel like you are moving into that place of overwhelm, use water to tame things, tame the waters. All right. Also in your cards that just make sense, you have the great teacher, learn from spiritual experiences. This is a card about calling in a mentor, calling in a partner, calling in someone to help you and assist you and guide you. It is a reminder, Aries, that sometimes we can't do everything ourselves. But if you are to call in a mentor or helper, pay attention to the details. I don't know why this is coming up for me. I have no idea why. But Aries, if you are calling in a mentor or helper, make sure it's somebody that you can full on trust. I don't know why I'm coming up with that, but just, yeah. Ooh, in your unexpected, you have the Empress. All right, the Empress is all about finally solving problems, giving birth to a new idea, really coming into fruition, having the finer things in life. Yeah, I mean, this is an exciting card in your unexpected. This is a card indicating that all of this other work that you are doing, particularly here, so you've come into June with a decision to make, and you're being pulled in several different directions. I can just feel it. I can sense it. There's some anxiety on your part. But once you actually make that decision and you pay attention to the details, you start down a new path here with this 10 of Swords. You take a little bit of time for yourself with this reverse 6. But ultimately you're focusing on still becoming this King of Pentacles. At times you're going to go with the flow. You might bump up against that. You might be like, I don't want to go with the flow. Ultimately, going with the flow is going to be a good thing, and really tapping into your imagination. And you're going to start to see things from a different perspective. That is going to bring you the Empress. The Empress is about birthing something new. Your final general overall outcome. Oh my goodness. Okay, you've got a couple more pentacles here. One of the pentacles that you happen to have here is the 10 of Pentacles, or 10 of Rainbows. We are the world. This is also a card of new beginnings. This is a card that the world is your oyster, Aries, and you can have whatever you want, but you need to put it out into the world in a very clear, concise manner. Once you put your ideas out into the world, what do you need to do? You need to be receptive. This card is the equivalent to the Queen of Cups or the Queen of Water. Again, water is coming up for you here, Aries, with this Queen. This is a card of being receptive to that which is around you, being ready to welcome in new opportunities. So you have some cards here that indicate that you need to be taking some action. You're putting something new out there. You've got the 10 of Winter indicating you're putting something new out there. You're making some decisions. But the receptivity card is reminding you that you can't just put your ideas out there from here, right? All ideas come from our minds, from our imaginations, okay? But once we do that, there are certain steps we need to take, and we need to keep our minds open and be receptive to what is flowing in towards us. And I do use the word flowing because this is the Queen of Cups. You have a card of slowing down here. In your general overall outcome, Aries, this is a card indicating that by the middle of June, you will have an opportunity to be able to take a step back from that which you are creating. Now, this does not mean moving into a state of laziness, because you'll notice that the character on this particular card is the tortoise. And I'm reminded of the race, the tortoise and the hare. Who wins the race? It's the tortoise. Slow and steady wins the race. Okay. As we begin, so shall we end. All right. We have 10 of Winter. This card is a card of 10 of Swords. It's the equivalent to the 10 of Swords. This is a card about new beginnings. This is a card about some difficult times being put behind us and our ability to be able to move forward from those difficult times. You have confirmation of that here, Aries, with the 10 of Clouds, also known as the 10 of Winter, also known as the Rebirth card coming out. As we begin, so shall we end, with some more new beginnings for you, Aries. Really exciting. Now, how are we going to close off your reading? We're going to close off your reading with the New Vision card. This card corresponds to the number 12 in the Major Arcana. And for those of you who are unfamiliar with this, this is the Hanged Man in the Major Arcana. Now, some people, when they see the Hanged Man in the Major Arcana of the traditional tarot, go, eek. The reality is the Hanged Man is being able to see things with a new vision. I don't know whether I can find it quickly enough. Just going to try and find it really quickly here. because I love the representation of the Hanged Man in this particular deck. It'll be the last card, right? Come on. There it is. Okay. So Aries, I love the Fairy Tarot and the Hanged Man, because this is the picture. Now, in the Fairy Tarot, the Hanged Man is called Awakening. And you'll notice that the fairy is hanging upside down. Why is the fairy hanging upside down? Because he has an opportunity to see things from a different perspective. He is bringing in a new vision. The other thing I want to note that on this particular card, you have the yin and the yang. Thus, when we see things from our standing upright position, we can also see similar images by turning ourselves upside down, seeing things from a different perception. Oh, remember what I said about the cards that just make sense? The cards that just make sense are cards that have similar or identical meanings to some of the other cards in our reading. And you have that here. Okay. Aries, this is telling me really, really important things. 10 of Swords, twice, rebirth here, and this is new beginnings. I mean, resolution of difficulties, new beginnings. I can't say it any different from that. I can't add anything to those two cards. And new vision. When you begin to shift your perception and see things from a more childlike view, you'll notice here that the fairy on this particular card is hanging upside down. Remember what I said with this cloud card and the imagination card? Bring back that childlike wonder of being able to have the opportunity to lie on your back, use your imagination, and see all of the pretty pictures up in the sky. What do you see up in the clouds? You shift your perception in order to be able to imagine new things. Just as children in a playground hang upside down on the monkey bars and they see their friends in a different light. You're being called upon to do the same thing, something very similar in your life. And what I want to do right now, Aries, is make kind of a bold prediction without the cards, but based on your reading. And that is that as much as probably early June, you're going to make some kind of a decision, you're going to pay attention to the details, is going to get the ball rolling towards something new with these two tens here, the two tens of swords here. It's going to get the ball rolling for something new, and yet not 100% new, because you don't have the Fool here. Fool is all about new beginnings. You don't have any aces here. So this is probably a revamping of something existing in your life, something that you already have going on pertaining to business or money. And this is like a repackaging of something that you already have going on. That is my prediction. And when you get a clear vision or image of this revamping of your business life, it might even be your business itself, or the way that you are going to manage your money, all of a sudden, a whole bunch of new doors are going to open for you, Aries. But the very first step is the very first card that you had, which was all about making decisions. And then rebirth, awakening, new visions, and being receptive. All right. Thank you so much for being here, Aries. I hope that you will join me again in the middle of June for your next reading. If you are interested in a private reading with me, I do have all of the information down below, and you can contact me that way. Thank you.